It was that same old dream again, the one where a young man felt like he touched heaven for the first time. He had never felt so lucky, but it only made things worse. He wasn't good at anything, and always wished he had something special about him. But now it seems like that guy can see ghosts at Hanami High School. Tanaka Kenji was exhausted in his third year. A black-haired young man in a school uniform was walking down the street, carrying his bag on his shoulder. On his way, he was haunted by the ghosts of half-naked women. They bothered him, asking if he had seen them and if he was alone. The girls teased him, saying he was small and cute, and even tried to touch him. Tanaka ran as fast as he could with his eyes shut, screaming that he didn't see, hear, or feel anything. He was haunted by ghosts every day, and everyone around him treated him like a weirdo. It was wearing him out, both physically and mentally. Kenji ran away from the ghost and finally stopped, breathing a sigh of relief. But suddenly, someone called his name. He turned around to see another dark ghost standing right behind him. Exhausted and drenched in sweat, he was in his high school building. Meanwhile, Tanaka was walking down the hallway of their school. He was still exhausted, his hair messy, and sweat dripping down his face. The student lifted his head and realized he was late again, all thanks to those ghosts. Tanaka lost his balance and bumped into the corridor wall. Completely worn out, he raised his head and saw the sign for the medical center. He headed to the door, thinking that Dr. Sima from the medical center was arrogant, so he wouldn't admit he was his favorite student. Gently knocking on the door, a woman's voice invited him in. Tanaka hesitated a bit, then opened the door and apologized softly. A black-haired girl in a robe asked him what was wrong. The young man scratched his head awkwardly and mumbled something, but the medical center staff asked what was going on. Dr. Sima sipped her drink wearily and told him to come back if everything was fine, because she actually didn't like tired and exhausted students disturbing her. The tired young man reported that he felt sluggish and worn out and thought he'd feel better if he took a nap. Tanaka asked the woman if there was anything wrong with that. The female doctor confirmed his words and replied that she understood everything, thanking him for his time. Dr. Sima told the student that his condition was due to an unhealthy lifestyle. But then she noticed a mark on his neck, like a handprint. She put her cup down, stood up, and said she understood what was happening. A tall girl in a white robe and sandals approached Tanaka and asked him to share what was on his mind. She mentioned his tiredness, mood swings, and guessed that he could see things others couldn't. Tanaka, a bit embarrassed, confirmed this. The nurse asked his name. Tanaka introduced himself and said he was in his first year of high school. Dr. Sima placed her hand on his shoulder and assured him she believed his story. While Tanaka glanced at her chest, thinking how close she was, Dr. Sima moved to the side of the door and turned back to him. She asked if he was being haunted by ghosts. In response, Tanaka loudly asked if she really believed him. Sima replied that she did, saying she was just like him. The student, his voice trembling, asked if this meant she could see them too. The tired girl confirmed, saying it was obvious. She told him she got the gist of it and asked him to rest for a bit. After that, they would figure out how to solve his problem. The sun set over Hanami High School, and stars appeared in the sky. Only one window on the ground floor was lit. Inside, Ken was fast asleep on the couch, drool dripping from his mouth. Suddenly, someone shook him and called his name. It was a staff member from the medical center, telling him it was time to wake up. Tanaka jolted awake and quickly asked what time it was. Sima replied that it was 11 p.m. and that she had already contacted his parents. The girl told him they needed to get straight to the point and asked if he wanted to talk about the ghost bothering him. Tanaka confirmed, and the doctor turned around, saying she would introduce him to the ghost haunting him. The student yelled in confusion as the woman explained that the ghost had been waiting for him in the hallway since he fell asleep. Just then, outside the infirmary door, a black ghostly hand pressed against the glass. A high school student jumped and screamed, asking why this was happening and thinking the girl was supposed to help him by solving his problem. Seema asked whoever was standing outside the door to come in. At that moment, a dark hand with claws opened the door and called out, "Sensei!" A ghost girl with long black hair and a mouth full of sharp teeth entered the medical center office. She was wearing a school uniform and called out Tanaka's name several times. The boy started crying and trembling, while the nurse stayed silent. The ghost, with her long arms and legs, approached the crying boy and said she wasn't going anywhere. Tanaka Kenji screamed in fear, covering himself with his hands. Suddenly, a girl in a white coat asked him to calm down as she poured coffee into her cup. She explained that the ghost desired him. The ghost girl jumped onto the sofa and hugged the boy from behind. Dr. Seema explained simply that the ghost was in love with him. The boy sat frozen in the ghost's embrace, shouting that he didn't want to get pregnant. Confused, he asked what the girl was talking about. The ghost pleaded with the boy for help while the nurse casually sipped her drink. She asked Tanaka if he had seen terrible ghosts and women. He screamed a confirmation, and the girl added that some ghosts exist to make people suffer. The young man could barely handle the ghost's pressure and shouted to Sensei that he wasn't feeling well. The ghost girl with the big mouth dropped him onto the sofa, trying to pin him down with her hands and feet. Seema approached the ghost, placed her hand on her shoulder, and offered to talk. The ghost stood up, and Tanaka sat on the sofa, trying to catch his breath. He asked Sensei if she could get rid of the ghost. The ghost girl looked at her cold coffee and said that people often judge others by their appearance, but what truly matters is what's inside. This applies to both humans and ghosts. The ghost was just like them, once a person. Seema continued, saying she wasn't a Buddha who could solve problems, but someone who advised ghosts. Tanaka, sweating, asked more about these consultations. The doctor turned to a long-necked ghost girl who was moaning and said she was ready to hear all her problems. The ghost told the boy to shut up and asked what he knew. The ghost said she was jealous of boys and wanted to flirt like in romantic comics. She opened her sharp-toothed mouth and screamed that she wanted to do all this with Tanaka and love him. Tanaka mumbled to the nurse that the ghost seemed different from what he imagined. Seema explained that ghosts and humans can appear similar. The ghost begged for love, claiming to be a sweet girl. She asked Tanaka to see her for who she was. Tanaka answered that the ghost only seemed scary. The nurse understood and offered to teach the boy something new. She explained that one day she started seeing ghosts too, and since then her body began to change. She thought the boy might have the same problem. Tanaka screamed that it couldn't be happening and asked if the woman was also haunted by such ghosts. Seema stood and explained that she could only be excited by ghosts. The student asked why she was revealing this now. The girl added that she put all her effort into it, and the boy could laugh if he found it funny. Tanaka realized she wanted to help him, which relaxed his fearful mind. Seema turned to the long-necked girl and said if things continued like this, she would become an evil spirit. The ghost tried to touch the boy but failed. The nurse asked Tanaka if he realized that humans and ghosts shouldn't interact too closely, but the ghost was too close to him. Seema put her hand on the ghost girl's shoulder and asked Tanaka if he felt her large chest. The ghost girl added that her thoughts were too strong, explaining they shouldn't touch, as it wasn't good. She asked for understanding. The ghost replied that she liked Tanaka. The nurse explained that the boy was the same student as the girl and asked the ghost to calm down and look closer if she truly liked Tanaka. The boy trembled with fear. The nurse asked the ghost if she wanted to show someone she liked and had the confidence to walk this path with him. At that moment, the ghost, with black eyes, stared at the boy, tears flowing from her eyes. Seema said she didn't expect to see such a happy expression on the ghost's face. She asked if these were tears of love. The ghost girl lowered her head, looking at her feet, wondering about what she wanted. She spoke about her desire to love, but then decided she wanted to be loved. Confused, she said it wasn't right, and tried to forget the boy. This sudden heartbreak made her realize it was her first love, and she didn't want to forget that feeling. Suddenly, during her sad speech, the ghost girl cried and transformed from a terrifying monster into a regular schoolgirl, though she remained a ghost. Tanaka turned to Sensei for guidance. Tanaka pointed at the girl's uniform, and Seema smiled, saying it was great, and she remembered the uniform now. The ghost cried and talked about all the trouble she had caused Tanaka, so she apologized. The nurse extended her hand and said she understood how the girl felt. She hugged the ghost tightly, pressing her to her chest, and said it must have been hard because no one likes being alone. Seema stroked the crying student's head, comforting her, saying she was very lonely and didn't want to be alone anymore. Tanaka felt embarrassed, tears welling up in his eyes. The nurse asked if he could help, saying only he could do it. It was night outside, and stars dotted the sky. Tanaka and the ghost girl were sitting on swings in a nearby park. The ghost apologized to Tanaka, admitting she had never dated before. He reassured her, saying there was nothing wrong with that, and that's why they came to this park. The ghost girl thanked him for spending time with her, and Tanaka thought about their time together. She explained how she always felt disconnected from everyone. Friends, family, and even people she liked stopped coming around. But one day, someone came, and it was Tanaka. The intimidating ghost girl wandered the streets, and saw an overturned vase that once held flowers. Tanaka was there too, and he picked up the vase and placed fresh carnations in it. The ghost started crying again. She handed the flowers to Tanaka, and he remembered them. The ghost girl held a carnation in her hand, smiling, saying she was so happy. She said the date was wonderful, and that if she could be reborn, she would find someone like him. The young man blushed as they shared a kiss. The girl replied that she was very happy and shyly laughed, thanking him for the date.